Rickson D'Souza, welcome to the Breadwinning Moms podcast.
Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you for having me.
So, Rickson, I initially saw you during the MDRT annual meeting conference this year, where you spoke about your life story that really touched me in so many levels. But before we go into that, I'm just going to start with a very basic question. Who are you as a human, Rickson?
Who am I as a human? That's an interesting one. I'm actually, okay, so I'll give you some background. First of all, I'm married to Sangeeta, my wife, Sangeeta Kumar. We've been married for almost 20 years. I have two children, Leah and Luca. Leah is turning 15 and Luca is going to turn 12 soon. I am a third generation Indian residing in the Middle East. So my parents moved over here back in the 60s.
Mm,
So I've lived in Dubai for maybe nearly enough, about 40 out of my 47 years. So I spent some time in India through university as well. On the work front, I am a life insurance advisor to high net worth entrepreneurs. And I feel like my mission in life is to show up with a check. Outside all of that, I enjoy difficult situations. I enjoy endurance, ultra running, triathlons, marathons, anything that can test my body and my mind.
yep. Excellent. I actually started my journey in financial planning because as I was graduating from high school, my family experienced financial hardship. And it really touched me when you said your mission in life is to come up with a check. What was
Mhm.
it that happened in your life that you've made it your mission in life?
I joined the industry in 99 because my mentor at the time, I was a 21-year-old, very easily influenced. And my mentor at the time, I met him at maybe 7:45 or 7:15 in the morning on October 17th. Um, when I saw him, he said, I think if you want to join this business, you need to think about three things. You have the freedom of time, work as many or as few hours as you want. You have the freedom of money, earn as much or as little as you want. And your job is to meet three people a day, 6 days a week. That was it. I was also in his office and I was surrounded by all these plaques. And back in the day, in 99, while digital photography was just coming up, really in his room, it was surrounded by all these checks he had presented to widows of breadwinners,
Mm,
right? And for me, sitting in that room, I decided mentally that I was going to join him right away. But honestly, the first reason for me to join him was really just pure and simple money and ambition. I think about 2 years into me being a life insurance advisor, I had my first claim that I had to pay out. And I must say that it was a huge learning curve for me because I was still an advisor that was learning. I was trying to earn a reasonable living. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a license. It cost me a lot of money to go and see clients. And this was a service call that needed my attention. And I wasn't able to go see the client because the distance I needed to cover was tremendous and I didn't have the money for it. So I deferred it for a couple of weeks. And then I heard that he passed away at the age of 36.
mm,
He left behind a widow and his mom, who were beneficiaries in the policy. But as soon as I heard that he passed away, I received a call from his wife asking me if Johnny had changed the beneficiaries on his
uh,
policy. And I said, no. He said, well, he was trying to reach to change the beneficiaries because I'm pregnant.
mm,
And he wanted to make sure that the money went to me and not to me and his mother. Unfortunately, what happened is his mother never shared the proceeds with the widow, the pregnant widow. And I carry that burden, since that day. So I always tell people I joined the business with different motivations. And I stayed in the business for very different reasons. Don't get me wrong, I'm still very ambitious. I still want to have breakthroughs on a regular basis. I get bored very easily. But it's very critical for me that the job we've taken up is done absolutely, perfectly. There's no room for mediocrity over there. Yeah.
mm.
So
Wow,
it was not as
excellent.
much a personal situation that I faced, but it was more on the work front, learning on the job.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. I want to
My
take us
pleasure.
to the young Rickson. What was he like being a third generation Indian growing up in Dubai?
It was interesting. We grew up in. My father came from very humble beginnings. When he was in the 10th grade, his father passed away in a remote village in south of India. And when his father passed away, my dad was the oldest son. So he had seven siblings and an eighth on the way. So his mom was pregnant when his father passed away. And my dad was in the 10th grade at the time. So he had to quit schooling. He was a great student and a great sportsman. He had to give that up because he now became the man about the house and he needed to make sure that his siblings were taken care of and his widowed mother was taken care of. So he had a lot of adversity that he dealt with. His first mission in life was to make sure all his siblings were fine. Then he got married to my mom, and he had us. I've got two siblings, so three kids in total that he had to take care of. And he tried to make sure that he built, just to make sure that his family was fine. So he gave us a great education, but he was very, very strict as a parent because he never got to study. For him, it was very critical that we hit the books. And as a result, we didn't get to enjoy sports or any downtime or any playtime. We were up at 5 o'clock or 5:30 every morning, and we hit the books. And as is very typical from that generation of Indian parents, it was expected that we would either become doctors or engineers.
Yep. Or
Um,
lawyers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lawyers were not in the card because doctor and engineers was,
Okay.
the thing that we had to, yeah. And, after my 10th grade, he gave me an option. He said, you can either live in Dubai, in my house, by my rules, or are you willing to go and stay in a Jesuit hostel in India? Now,
Yep.
I had no idea what Jesuit hostel meant. And I said, listen, anywhere will give me more freedom than here.
Yeah,
And I
it's
said, let's
yeah.
go to India. So I left Dubai after the 10th grade and I went to India for 2 years in a Jesuit hostel and then 4 years later on in a villa that dad built for mom and for all of us really. I had more freedom in that Jesuit hostel, even though they had a 6 p.m. curfew. We were surrounded by playgrounds. And even though in the 10th grade in school in Dubai, I was a topper in my 12th grade, and I still am the only person in my family and our generation to ever fail the 12th grade, the 12th exam.
Okay.
So if you think about that, dad wants me to become a doctor engineer
Yeah.
and I failed science and I failed mathematics and I failed, all the critical subjects I failed. And the reason I failed is during our board exams, our entire batch, there were 36 of us in the 12th grade in the hostel that year, and we got up in the morning to play cricket. We couldn't be bothered about the exams, and we are still probably on record as the largest 12th grade to ever fail in the history of institution. Yeah, we had more than 60% of the students fail the 12th grade in the hostel. So it was interesting. I had a challenge with my father after that. I did convince him that I wanted to continue to live back in India. He wanted me to come back to Dubai and work in the family business. And a priest, a Jesuit priest, and my dad really looked up to priest, who was the principal of our college. He spoke to my dad and he said, listen, your son's a great kid. He'll be fine. I think you should let him stay back. I'm ever grateful for that priest for doing that because my dad gave me a condition. He said, I'll let you stay back in India, in Bangalore, and live on your own on the condition that you have to do a double graduate.
Hmm.
So once you fail the 12th grade, your options are very limited. So the only option available for me was a Bachelor of Arts because India is very competitive with the, schooling and university and stuff. So I said I'll take a Bachelor of Arts in Industrial Relations, Economics, and Sociology. And that was for fun. And the rest of my time, I was supposed to spend time doing a correspondence course, a degree in software engineering, Bachelor of Technology, basically, through the Open University of British Columbia.
Oh,
I'm smiling because this is 1995.
yeah.
We didn't have access to the internet and stuff. I didn't know where British Columbia was. I am under the assumption that this is part of South America. And I attended the program, obviously remotely. There were centers in India, in Bangalore. I attended the program for all of 6 months. And then I used the rest of that money that my dad gave me on a monthly basis, which was 8,000 rupees a month, a significant amount of money back in the day. Salaries were at 3.5 to 4,000 rupees. But I used that 8,000 rupees a month to buy some sound and lighting equipment, like a DJ kit. We imported this from Singapore to Bangalore, and I started playing music at parties to earn some extra money and to be invited to all the parties. It's college. And that was my first entrepreneurial experience. But that also means that 4 years later, I graduated with a degree in industrial relations, economics, and sociology, and no bachelor of technology, which is how I ended up in the life insurance business uh, because I didn't
Hold
have
on,
the
wait. You skip way too fast there. So what happened during that 3.5 years? Did your dad never expected
he
anything else? He was never
he
suspected or anything else?
if and when he did.
Yeah,
Listen, I have a feeling that he knew and he
yeah.
was just quiet about it, which
Uh,
changed my thought process and my perception of him completely. But years after he passed away,
mm.
a couple of his brothers, my uncles, actually told me that he knew all along. He just didn't
Oh, wow.
say it. He just wanted you to grow.
Yeah,
And for me, that was crazy because in my head, I kept thinking, if he ever finds out, I'm going to be in serious trouble.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So I think he knew. I
yeah,
think he
yeah,
knew.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So,
Just
as
for some,
someone,
let me just give you some context. I said he gave me 8,000 rupees a month as for fees.
yeah.
My pocket money technically was 1,500 rupees a month.
Oh, wow.
8,000 was a
Yeah.
huge, and I did spend some of it, but I also invested some of it in the business of being a DJ, and we made, but that 8,000 converted to about 70 to 80,000 rupees a month for
Oh,
a whole of
wow.
a. So, like I said, my first entrepreneurial experience came in 96
Yeah.
doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your lifestyle like then back in the day as a highly
Oh,
successful DJ?
I wasn't a highly successful DJ, but I was a DJ. I was part of a group. There was another guy that played with me. We had an investor back in the day. He helped with some of the stuff as well. Lifestyle I loved college life. I loved going to my Bachelor of Arts college, which was St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science. And I spent a lot of, mom and dad were not in Dubai, not in Bangalore. They were in Dubai. I had a huge four-bedroom house to myself. Dad bought a car for mom, assuming mom would stay back in Dubai, stay back in Bangalore. She moved back to Dubai, which means I now lived in a house, in a four-bedroom house, as a college student with two dogs, a bike, a car, and I was making enough money to manage all of it, fuel, etc., etc. So it was a really great life, but it was that period in my life where I grew up.
Yeah.
I had to manage everything else. I said I love dogs. As a college student, that meant now I needed to take care of the two dogs that I had at home.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting. It was a growing up period for me.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, then fast forward a couple of years later, you were running your own business. You were investing a lot of time, and this was another experience that you shared with us during the annual meeting. Um, and then you had to overcome some health issues. Can you tell us a little bit more about that period?
Yeah, sure. I came back to Dubai, and I always was an overweight and even a borderline obese child, right? I explained how my dad didn't let us play sports, so that was never allowed. They were also both middle income. We were a middle income family, so mom and dad both worked, which means food and stuff like that. It was quick fixes always. There was limited knowledge as well there. So for me, from a health perspective, I was always the obese kid, always the overweight kid in school. Then I went back to Bangalore and I was in a Jesuit hostel. The food is super lean. You're walking everywhere, you're playing sports. I leaned out completely. And then when I came back to Dubai in 99 and I got into the life insurance business, unlike the rest of my friends who were all in salaried jobs that, they started at 8 a.m., finished at 5 p.m., my job really began when people were free to talk to me. And when you first join this industry, you don't know about the rules that you need to be creating for yourself. which means I just worked in a manner where I met as many people as possible whenever they were willing to meet me. Now, if this was a weekend, I'd meet them on the weekend. If it was after work hours, it didn't matter. It was public holidays, I'd see them, it didn't matter. And that also meant food was always on the go. I never focused on health and fitness. Over a period of time, I became morbidly obese. So at my heaviest, I was 138, 140 kilograms. And that was just before Sangeeta and me got married, and that was 2006. I was trying to lose weight at the time to look good in a wedding suit, I guess. But, you know, I think the problem with that is I took to heart that thought process of you can make as much money as you want in this business. You can work as few or as little hours, and all you need to do is meet three people a day. If I could rephrase that, if I could go back to my mentor from 99 and tell him, when you're onboarding people, maybe consider telling them that, yes, you can meet as many or few people per day, but consider the possibility of having that frame of, of the timeline between which you want to have these meetings. Yes, you have to meet three people a day, but think about what kind of people you want to serve rather than casting a net far and wide and landing pretty much anybody and everybody. So we had clients whose incomes were less than $300 a month. And I had clients whose income was as much as $40,000 a month. And this was in the first 3 to 5 years of me being in the business. There was zero clarity. I was told to ask for references, and I asked for anybody as a reference. Versus today, if I think about it, we're very specific about who we want to meet, and we engage only that kind of clients. We say no to the masses. And when I say no, it's just because our bandwidth of time does not exist to manage them in the right manner. So all of that led to me working long hours, trying to manage some kind of a social life, pay my bills as everyone is, as everyone does. And I think through all of that stuff, I let my health suffer completely, to a point where after I got married and after I had my first child, Leah, I ended up with acid reflux on a very high level, which meant I completely lost my voice in the morning. So my income was now getting affected. I ran a business which had about 60 advisors. I want to call that phase of my life misguided ambition. Because all I knew was the only way to make money in our business was to work harder. So I just worked harder, which meant 12 to 14-hour days, 6 days a week, with my wife bringing my daughter into the office on weekends while I was working in between meetings so I could spend some time with her.
I
Yeah,
saw that
it's,
photo. Yeah.
yes, yeah, it's not my proudest moment, but it was
Yeah.
definitely a learning and a tipping point for me.
Yep. And so at what point did you tell yourself that it's enough is enough? A change is needed now.
A couple of things. First of all, my dad passed away a year before my daughter was born, and
Mm.
he passed away at a young age of 59. The reason for death was uncontrolled diabetes and all the resulting medical issues, kidney failure, heart conditions, etc., etc. Um, then Leah was born, and I decided I need to live the pitch that I make to my clients, and I decided to up my life insurance policy.
Mm.
And I was the top producer for one of the largest insurance companies based here. And when I put an application in for a term insurance policy, which was meant to expire by the age of 67, they charged me 100% more than the average 33-year-old.
Yep.
And a conversation with the chief underwriter at the time, and he said the only reason you don't have anything wrong with your blood work today is because of your age. And he
Mm.
said, I'll go back to your father. Your father got diagnosed at the age of 35. You were 33.
Mm.
With your health and lifestyle, there's no way this isn't
Mm.
going to happen. So it's going to
Mm.
cost you a lot more. And that for me, coupled with the acid reflux and a gastroenterologist who was not a surgeon giving me an unbiased opinion about how some intervention was required ASAP.
Mm.
Me realizing that the source of my income, if I think about what sensory organs I'm using the most, I speak. If I need to earn money, I need to talk to clients. Losing my voice for like 12 to 14 days in a row and having all my meetings get canceled,
Mm.
And then seeing the resulting insurance premiums, et cetera, that was my tipping point. That
Yep.
was my tipping. Yeah.
Okay. And so what did you decide to do?
Interestingly enough, I ran into a buddy on the same day who I didn't recognize because he had dropped over 110 kilograms. He was morbidly obese and then some. And he introduced me to a surgeon who helped with bariatric sleeve. I decided to go down the path of surgical procedure, as my gastroenterologist told me that I needed something to happen right away. He suggested surgery, but he didn't recommend a surgeon. Um, and I went down that path honestly, and over a period of the next 6 months, I came down to what was considered from a BMI perspective normal, average. The insurance company over the course of 3 years reduced my loading from 100% rating to giving me standard pricing. And after those 6 months were over, I got into health and fitness, and then I got obsessed with it. So my wife always tells me I'm on two extremities.
Yep.
There's never middle ground. There's always one extreme or the other, and I'm on the other extreme right now, and I'm enjoying it.
Yep.
It's been 13 years of doing that, and I'm happy. I'm fanatical about this versus other things.
Yep.
Yeah.
How was the surgery change you? Obviously, it changed you physically, but mentally, emotionally,
Mm.
and perhaps even spiritually, did you feel any shift at all?
Yeah, I think it was the first time in a long time. So I'd say 99 to 2012. It's the first time maybe in 12 or 13 years I actually was forced to take a break.
Mm.
And I couldn't think about work because there was recovery, there was low energy. The surgery reduces the size of the pouch of your stomach, right? Which means the amount of food that you can consume is very little. At some point in time, your body realizes that you're not going to feed it. And it now starts living off the existing fat reserves, which also meant by 3 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon, because of the limited intake of food, under 300 calories a day, I was completely exhausted and I needed to take a nap. My nap would be about 3 or 4 hours. It took a long time for the body to cope. And that pause allowed me to rethink my life in every element of it. I realized that my dad was not around to see my children, my daughter at the time, and I would never want that to be my case, that I wanted to be there for them, forever. Um, a lot of things shifted, and I remember a business partner of mine telling me, after he saw the transformation over a period of 2 years, he said, you began by cutting fat in your life. Then you started cutting fat out of your relationships, family and relationships. And then you started cutting fat out of your business, which is
Mm.
true. When I think about it, I exited a lot of relationships, even family for that matter, which I thought were toxic and were things that I shouldn't be spending my time in just because it's blood. With business, we cut out people that we thought were, again, toxic relationships, where it was a one sided benefit. And we decided to redraft or rewrite the narrative of who we wanted to show up with a check for,
Mm.
right? And that changed everything. So I
Mm.
think it began with the surgery and that pause, and that was the catalyst for so many other things to take place.
Yeah. Interesting. Thanks for sharing.
My pleasure.
Um, I actually related to your story. One of the areas that I was able to relate to your story was because I started running last year. When I started running, I got this book called Epic Runs of the World by Lonely Planet. Have you seen it? Um,
I have it right
there
here.
you go.
Let me show you my copy.
There you go. It's a really great book. I love that
It
they
is.
have so many stories in it, within it. I thought it was just, information about different type of fruits. But when I picked up this book, I came into a section that talks about marathon disables. And there were
Yes.
two things that came up in my mind. The first one was, that looks amazing. And two, I'm never going to be able to do it. Since I picked up this book, I finished my first marathon. I did my first ultra marathon and I attempted my
Wow.
first triathlon as well. And now my mind has shifted. I still think that is MDS is the greatest thing ever, but given time and effort, I too can do it. And so I wonder whether if this shift is also a parallel to your business story, because at the MDRT we have qualifying members, but we also have court of table, also have top of tables, and not only have you qualified for the top of tables, but you have 16x, 10x, which means that your annual revenue is, in the tens of millions of dollars. And so I wonder, the same with the marathon disables analogy, what type of mind shift have you evolved through to take you to where you are today?
First of all, congratulations on your first marathon, your first ultra, and the triathlon journey. It's amazing.
Thank
Listen,
you.
there's a book. I can't remember the name of the author, but there's a book called Do Hard Things.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I have it as well next to my bedside table.
The interesting thing is once you start subscribing to that mindset, it's really easier to have that transcend to other parts of your life, right? Me going through Marathon des Sables was me dealing with some baggage that I refused to let go of for a very long time. I was ousted out of business with family in a hostile takeover. And I never dealt with that. My dad passed away, and I was expected to be the son that managed everything: my younger brother, my older brother, my mom, the business, the assets, and my own family. Um, which meant there was a lot of people relying on me to show up and manage things, even with the business and then my clients. It's almost like everybody wanted a piece of me. So I deferred subconsciously. I deferred dealing with the grief element of my dad not being there, and he was and still is my biggest mentor ever in my life. Right? We were very identical people, and now that it's always hindsight, right? When I think about everything he taught me and everything he did for us. I don't know how this man, from as a 10th grader whose dad passed away and had to take care of seven siblings, his widowed mother, and put them all through school and then take care of his three kids, and had the energy to do all of that in life. Starting as a bus conductor and ending his career as the owner of an insurance brokerage firm. It's a crazy story, and I was surrounded by that greatness for so long. And Marathon de Sable began with me hearing about a story in our local CrossFit gym from one of my friends, from two of them who ran. They had to be on an IV drip because of dehydration. Their poles broke. A bunch of things happened, and they came back 10 kilos lighter. And I had this internal argument with myself about why would someone do this to themselves. Thousands of kilometers of training to get to the point where you're ready to run across the desert for 250 kilometers. And if you Google the Marathon des Sables, the first line that shows up about the race is they say it's the toughest foot race in the world. You know, I am an outdoors person, first of all. I like the outdoors. I love the elements. You give me a chance to go out camping or in the wilderness, and I will take it. So when I came back home that evening, I had a conversation with my wife Sangeeta, and it was almost an argument of sorts where I was telling her about these two idiots and why they did this. And I was like, this is crazy. They're parents, they've got kids there. And she explained to me, she said, it's not your journey, it was theirs. Why is it bothering you so much? I remember leaving the our living area, getting into my home office, Googling the race, and that's what I saw: the world's toughest foot race. Instantly, I got curious. Mind you, I'm not a runner right now. I'm into CrossFit, I'm into Olympic weightlifting, I'm trying to build muscle, and then it says the world's toughest foot race. I didn't wait to read the rest of it. I clicked on the website. It was at the time when registration were open. I couldn't even afford the complete registration, but I said, you know what, let's give it a go. I clicked on it, I registered, I came back and I told Sangeeta, don't worry about it. I'm going to figure this out for myself. But I signed up for the race. It's on April 7th. And this was October.
This
And
is the
she,
same time that you were complaining about these two people who did
same day, same
it.
day, same day.
Okay.
If you know how to use Colby A index, it gives you four numbers that denominate certain things about yourself, whether you're a fact find, a follow through, a quick start, or an implementer. And my digits are 3, 3, 9, 4. Three means fact find, follow through, very little. Quick start, that means motivated to make action quickly, is 9 out of 10, and implementers 4. So that came out very clearly in me
Yeah.
going to choose.
Yeah.
So it's literally jump out into, out of a plane and
Yeah.
build a parachute on your way down.
Yeah.
So that's basically what happened. And honestly, I realized as I began on that journey that this was, whether I liked it or not, you cannot convince friends who are not in the same journey with you to show up 3 days a week to run with you in the desert for 8 hours. I mean, someone might come once out of novelty, but they're not doing this for the next 4 months or 5 months of their life, which meant for a first time in a very long time, I got to spend a lot of time with me. I had to drive into the desert, run for 8 hours on my own, up and down sand dunes, sometimes the same boring sand dune just to get the hill repeat in there. And it gave me a lot of time to think about myself. When you're doing these things, you cannot prioritize what you will tackle today mentally. Thoughts that come to you. Whether they stay with you or are fleeting thoughts, it's not up to you. So
Mhm.
I'm just sitting there over a period of 3 to 4 months doing these long runs, sometimes 16 to 24 hours over a 3-day weekend, running in the desert, camping overnight, doing my bit alone. Um, and I'm processing stuff.
Mhm.
And on actual race day, I realized I was really what I was there to do was take that power back. Because when all of those, when that whole exit on the two businesses took place, when there was a hostile takeover, when I ended up in debt with 2 million US dollars, and all of that stuff took place from a loan shark, albeit, all of that stuff meant I needed something. I needed to see something that said, regardless of what's going on, I can take control of the situation, I can own it, and I can get out of this on my own. And that's what Marathon des Sables did for me. Through that period, the race takes place in Morocco, in Ouarzazate. It's over a 10-day period. It's a 7-day race, 3 days for acclimatizing. And this takes place in April, which means I started training in October or November, which is winter in Dubai. Yes, it's the Middle East, but it's winter. So for me to be able to acclimatize to heat, I needed to start training around 11 or 12 p.m.
Mm.
Twice a week on a work day and twice a week on a weekend, which means I needed to get efficient with my business.
Mm.
How do I make sure that my clients are taken care of and are not interrupting me during my race, during my training twice a week? Right? So all of this stuff, taking those steps to participate in the race and finish it, that was the goal. Meant a couple of days of training midday for 3 to 4 hours, which is prime time for business. Reprioritizing who I wanted to work with, what I wanted to do with them, hiring the right team in place, and then learning to trust them completely and let them do what they do best. Because to be fair, if it wasn't for them, none of this stuff would have been possible. But me as an entrepreneur learning to let go,
Mm.
right? And not trying to control every situation. Um, all of this was a learning curve. And I think it made a big difference to the end result. Because I learned that by doing all of this stuff, we did not do lesser business than the previous year. So my way of 10xing that year was to maintain the same level of income, but do it in a significantly reduced number of hours. And that was a learning that went into the following year. Let's make things a little more difficult, right? Let's add Ironman and triathlons. I had to go, in 6 months, I had to go from not being able to swim to being able to complete a full Ironman, which meant three disciplines, 8-hour bike rides on the weekend. But all of this stuff taught me that there is, I can't quote the author for this rule, but there is a rule that states an activity or a project will take as much time as you give it. Learning from those kind of books, those kind of quotes, learning from the 4-hour work week of Tim Ferriss, which talks about how you need to first find the activities that you will be involved with in the hours you're not working and plug them into your diary before you actually start out on that path.
Mm.
Else you'll default to work because there's nothing else in the diary. So putting all of that stuff in and realizing business still took place I just needed to manage it more efficiently. So the
Mm,
mindset of doing difficult things at Marathon des Sables or Ironman races, I think it is so easy to carry that into your personal life, health and fitness, family, business. It's easy for it to, you can find, you can draw that correlation. And I think spending that much of time with yourself, I don't know how many adults do it really. And I think it's important to get to know who you are as a person. I hear this phrase nowadays so often, and it's "you do you," right? I've heard this so often. I love
mm,
it, honestly. But I think it's important for you to know who you are before you do you,
yeah,
right? Because it's so easy today with all the noise around us to get influenced by everything else that's happening around us.
yeah.
Yeah,
And from time to time, it's important to check in with who you are for that particular of time as well, because we change over time. You go through relationship losses, you go through personal losses, financial successes, and things can change as well. And it's okay to change along with them.
absolutely. I honestly believe every human being you touch, every bit of information you gather changes you a little bit.
Mm,
A little bit, shifts you a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And if you look at yourself 10 years later, or if you look at yourself 10 years ago,
mm,
you're unrecognizable as a person you are today.
yep.
So I think it's a
Mm. It's interesting that you were able to train in the desert. Before I attempted my ultra, I was training a lot in nature, but here in Australia, we have a lot of bushlands. And during my training, I felt a sense of connection with nature that I wasn't able to grasp with any type of road training before. Did you experience any of that?
absolutely. It sounds uncanny, but I told my wife that I'd go up in the trails in the mountains, and every Friday I'd go up in the trails, and around 7:30 or 8 up this one mountain, at that same time there was a blue lizard that showed up on a rock and just sat there. And I told Sangeeta, I said, you know what? I feel like this lizard knows I'm coming on for every Friday at this time because it's alive. It's not a dead lizard. It's been there for weeks. It's just sitting on that rock at that time when I'm crossing. And I crossed that path once. So yes, absolutely. There is a huge connection with nature in all forms. Your senses are well, I feel like it was an overdrive. I could feel everything, whether
Mm,
it was camels in the distance, whether we saw gazelles running by, or even if it's just looking at wild melons, wild poisonous melons in the desert.
mm,
It was an experience. It was an
yeah,
experience. It was amazing. The connection was awesome.
yeah. It's almost like your focus is narrowed but also expanded at the same time.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
heightened sense.
mm. I really like the reflection that you put up on your LinkedIn about your MDS journey. In particular, you highlighted two lessons. The first one was nothing comes for free, and every action or non action has consequences. And the second one is there are rules and markers in life, and if you don't follow them, you can't complain about not winning. So, my follow up question to you, Rickson, is what does winning mean to you right now in your life?
It's changed a lot over the years. I think I am still the generation that's creating wealth for my family. I believe a lot in everything we do as a life insurance advisor. When we talk about high value life insurance policies and what they do, I believe in this stuff a lot. So I own a lot of this stuff as well. At the same time, today for me, with as a father of two, as a husband, as an entrepreneur with a team to lead, as an advisor to a lot of clients where we've promised to deliver almost $1 billion in potential life insurance death claims. For me, it's the most important thing for me is to be able to do what I said I will do. If we've committed to do something, there can be no reason whatsoever that that commitment is broken, which means it makes me reconsider what I say yes to today. Because if I think even if there is a hint or a possibility of me not being able to deliver on this, then it's better for me to step back and not commit to it. as far as my children are concerned today, it's a noisy world. They have access to so many gadgets, whether we like it or not, which distract them and take their attention away. And I think it's critical today. And we have this conversation as parents in the house. My wife and myself have this conversation on a regular basis about how our role in life is not to be their friends, because they'll have a lot of that. But our role in life is to help them become responsible, self sufficient adults in our absence. So prepare them for the world, and prepare them for the world so that they can, when we're out of the picture, they can be responsible adults. I've seen so many families that are uber wealthy, and I've seen many different sides to them. One side is entitlement, where the second generation has just inherited or received without the responsibility and the know-how, or what amount of blood and sweat it took to build this. And I've seen the other side of it, where I've seen very, very responsible billionaires, right? And when I look at these two equations, the difference, and we put out a post about this some time ago about what the difference is between an inheritance and a legacy, right? And in the first picture, it was an inheritance. There was no transference of a mindset, of values, of core values, of family constitution. Whereas in the latter, that transcended down completely, where people look at themselves as guardians or custodians of that wealth rather than, so it's winning for me today is showing up for the people I promise to show up to. In my house, that's my wife, my children, my dogs, my home staff. At work, it's my team, my clients, my friends. Uh, it's that's critical for me, being able to be there. There are certain causes that are very dear to my heart, and they involve children. Um, and I've committed to helping out on those two or three fronts. And for me, being able to show up for that is critical. So today, if you tell me what's your next 10x growth plan for your business, my next 10x growth plan for my business may not involve necessarily increasing the earnings. It may involve reallocating the amount of time I spent on business versus all the other things that I want to also impact and accomplish in life.
Yep, I feel the same way. Um, there was another post as well that you mentioned about your triathlon, how the first swimming coach that you had, you knew early on that he was not going to take you to the starting line. Um, how do you know when you found the right coach, the right staff, the right business partner?
So, we've said this a couple of times today, that there is a lot of noise. So it's very easy for us to look at the accolades of somebody and say, right, that's the
Mm,
right person. The first swimming coach that I met, she was a multi-time, triathlon finisher, age group qualifier, Uber champion. But your gut has a lot to do over here, right?
mm, mm,
And my first couple of interactions with this individual, I realized she was somebody that
mm,
constantly complained about things that were not going on well in her life, with the management of the training academy, and I realized that I am not that person that can get motivated by that.
mm,
That I need somebody to lift me up, especially given that my start point was a place where I was trying to stop dog paddling in the water and actually be able to crush a 3,800-meter swim. I realized very quickly that I would not be able to do it with the person like that. And when I got introduced to the next coach for swimming, it was unbelievable. The reference came from somebody I didn't know at all. They said, "Hey, I heard you're doing this and I heard you're going down this journey. I have the guy for you. He is phenomenal. He's got the best energy and you should talk to him." Listen, when you get introduced to somebody in that manner, if you think about how certain superstars are introduced on a main stage or on TV, it sounded like that, like someone saying, hear ye, I present this." When
Yep.
I met that guy, he delivered on every single level, to the point where today I don't train for triathlons. I don't participate in triathlons. But I feel like I'll go back to swimming just so that I can have an hour with him every week where he talk me through things, which was just beyond swimming as well. But it just
Yeah.
motivated me to do better as an individual. So that's a great question because I use coaches for so many different parts of my life. I have a business coach that I go to in Toronto. His name is Dan Sullivan,
Oh, yeah.
strategic. Yeah, and I've been part of that program since 2008. And
Oh,
while
wow.
Dan himself is a phenomenal coach, the people that he attracts, entrepreneurs like myself, for me, that's another 30, 40 people in the room
Yeah.
that is lifting you up.
Yeah.
You know, my coach for my marathons is a guy called Tom Walker, and I've known him now for the last 5 or 6 years. He's been my coach. And again, the kind of people that he attracts and the wisdom that he imparts, he's younger than me by over 10 years. And today I've decided to use him as a high performance coach outside running as well, because he just asks the right questions.
Mm.
You know, in business, there is a thought process of hiring slowly but firing fast.
Hmm.
And you've heard similar analogies with books. Once you start reading a book, if it's not great, then don't feel compelled to finish it.
Hmm.
So I think exposing yourself to different coaches to figure out who really is the right person for you is critical. If
Mm.
you think the person is not working out, there is no reason for you to put yourself through the rest of that trauma,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
I don't know if there is a way to vet a coach that is right for you from day
Yeah.
one, because you can reduce the probability of making that decision incorrectly, right? By having them come through verified sources, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, it's two people,
Yeah.
right? It's the energy that transfers. And while it may have been great for your best friend, it may be absolutely wrong for your level of energy. So
Yeah.
I know couples today that run marathons and they use different coaches, different groups altogether because they are two individual people that are drawn to different types of energies and different types of people. So I think today, honestly, the only way to know is to really take the plunge, get a coach, hire a coach. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, don't stop there. Find the next coach,
Yeah.
right? Think about what you learned from that experience
Mm.
and what doesn't work. And the next time you're getting another coach, just remember to eliminate those, disqualifiers first.
Yeah. Great tip. You also spoke about so you don't actually work full time in the business because you have other priorities, other purposes in life. How do you
Mhm.
balance that with demanding your full time staff to work to their optimal level?
I think hiring is a big part of it, first of all. So, over a course of the years now, we've identified what our core values are as a business. Our team knows those core values. And if when we were identifying those core values, one thing that was brought my attention is the core values are something that is so critical that you need to be willing to be able to hire based on it, but also fire for non-compliance.
Hmm.
So when we hire today, I'm not saying we get the equation right all the time, but we hire with the core values in mind, and the team is made aware of the core values, which means in most cases the people we hire on our team are self-motivated individuals and they know they're going to be challenged not necessarily by me. If I think that I need to hire people today that I need to monitor on a regular basis to ensure that they're doing their job well, then it's not really working out because I have my own roles, in the business and in life.
Mm.
But I'll tell you that we have a great team in place today. It's evolved over a period of time, even their responsibilities and what I learned about them over a period of time, over difficult situations like COVID and stuff like that, how they coped. And I've realized that I don't need everyone to be like me. I need them to have strengths which are possibly my weaknesses and complement that. And then I need to let them be. The work is handed down. They all have accountability, people on their teams and, managers and stuff like that. And I don't need to be someone that's constantly, old school cracking the whip. That
Mm.
doesn't work. That pure motivation is useless. So I think today, in most cases, I'll say it's evolving. There are still people that are being hired, and we realize in a 6-month period they're the wrong fit, and we will eject them quickly. and we will take a slow process to hiring the next person. But if they don't fit, then I think we're doing both of us a favor, the organization as well as them, by saying
Yep.
this is not working out. And it's stuff that we're learning. I don't think we've perfected it, but I do delegate a lot of stuff, and I try and stay in my lane. And my
Mm.
lane is to meet high level entrepreneurs, introducers, understand their problems, and provide them with solutions. The stuff that goes on in the background, the magic is not me. My job is big picture, right? The details is the rest of the team. And I think if I start stepping on in their lane, I'll just break the process. I'll
Mm.
ruin it. Yeah,
Interesting. Thanks for sharing.
not at all.
So, what is life like for you right now? You have the business, you have your pursuits, athletic pursuits, and you also have the other purpose in life that you are working towards. What does that look like, and how are you currently juggling everything?
So as a business, we've identified that we want to work just with high and ultra high net worth entrepreneurs. We've identified to the T who our right fit client is, and we challenge ourselves to make it more difficult every single year. But today, by that definition, we need to onboard only 4 new clients a year, right? We know exactly the proposition we want to help them with, the problem that we want to help them resolve. And today, in most cases, they seek us out versus us looking out for them. So, in reality, for us to have a successful business year, probably need to work 1 day a week as a business for me in front of clients, maybe about 20 or 25 weeks of the year. That's the honest truth. But I also have a legacy book of clients who've been with me since, some of them since 1999. And I have a responsibility towards them. And they are my retail clients who've been with me for so long and have evolved and have grown with me, but they are not the high level, ultra high net worth entrepreneurs. We provide them with the same level of service that was promised to them at inception. So there's a whole team that works on ensuring that their stuff is sorted out as well. That rarely requires me to be present, um, regularly. The intervals are more, I mean, the interactions are more between the client servicing team and them. Me and them is always social catch ups because they've become like family for over 25 years now. We're more friends and family than anything else. The rest of the stuff is interesting for me because I have this impact goal. And the impact goal for me in business is to help the life insurance and the financial services advisory community. I always thought about this in the past, and people said you should come up with a podcast on insurance. And I'm thinking, who wants to listen to a podcast on life insurance after you've purchased a life insurance policy?
Yeah.
That means every week, if someone becomes a client, then they unfollow the podcast because this isn't something, this is
Yeah.
sexy that they're going to keep buying more and more of. No. But I realized later on in life that my people, my audience is actually advisors from all walks of life,
Mm.
specifically life insurance and financial services. And if I can help them improve their life based on my learnings, then that would be huge. So to that note, on that note, we kind of launched the company Successio Academy, and the goal is to really help coach advisors globally to help them to accomplish more, but by being smarter about it. I've come across so many people who tell me they have no time for a personal life because they work with 400 clients a year. And some people actually absolutely love that environment. They thrive in it. They don't see anything wrong with it, and that's great. And I'm not here to change their thought process. But there are some people who, there are many that want something different. And the only way they know how to do it today is by working harder, grinding more. And I just want to challenge that thought process. If I could show people, if I could show advisors an easier way of, you know, dealing with that, and just understanding that there are different ways, there are different paths to success. And there's a learning for me from MDS over there, which I have to share. On one of the long days, we had a long day, which is 86 kilometers. That's day 4 in MDR, in MDS. And the understanding is that you'll meet the devil on that day. That day is mixed with sand dunes, with rocky cliffs, with, descent. And, it could take about 22 to 36 hours to finish that long day. And I remember running one MDS. I did it twice. So the second time around, I ran the long day with a friend who I made during the race initiation weeks. And she saw me going a very different path over the dunes. I didn't go straight up because there are 1,000 people doing the race. Even if you were the 300th person, 300 people have gone past that those sand dunes already. It's now completely dug up. And
Mm,
she saw me going the long way around. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, I'm going up the dune, but I don't want to go in that dug up mud.
mhm,
So I'm actually taking the long way around, but the sand is firm. So
mm,
you can go up quicker, and you probably will reach down at the same time as the person going over there, but you would have spent lesser energy.
mhm,
And she's like, "No way." I said, "Let's try it out." And she did. She went the normal route and I went around, and we got there about the same time. She was completely gassed. Heart
mhm,
rate was completely up there. I was peaceful.
mm,
And for me, that was a learning that I want to take through in life, right?
mm,
There are so many ways to do this. And what works for one person does not necessarily have to be your method, right? And I love that. If I could do one thing today, our BHAG, our big, hairy, audacious goal for the next 5 years is to be able to impact 5 million advisors by constantly showing them change. Coaching, training. I don't believe I'm a coach, by the way. I just have the vision for it and I have the reach for it. Where what I'm looking to do right now is find the right capability and teach them how we're doing stuff so that they could teach others. This would be a huge thing for me. Apart from that, work is a big part of my life, but my children are growing up very quickly. I want to be able to positively influence them. I want to be around with them, travel as much as possible before they leave and go to university, and spend as much time with my wife, Sangeeta, today so that our only common point cannot be our children. So we travel together a lot, she and me, also us and the family, the kids and everyone else, um, just so that we stay connected. Yeah,
yep. If there was one element that helped you keep everything together, what would that be?
consistency,
Mm,
showing up. It's corny, but we've heard it before. They say trust the process. It's a
mm,
very difficult one for people to accept, but trusting the process means you're not going to see results every day,
mm,
right? And that's okay. But showing up every day is important. It's critical.
yep.
It's very critical. Yeah,
Excellent.
that's it.
Okay, I want to take us back to the one that young Rickson then, knowing all of the wealth of knowledge, all of the life experiences that you've been through. If you could go back to that young Rickson at grade 10 who's about to go to Bangalore, out of reach from his dad's grasp,
Yeah.
what one advice would you give that young Rickson?
Oh wow. I know I wouldn't change anything. I would go in probably with lesser fear and more enthusiasm. I would tell him to lean in completely.
Even
Yeah,
through the family hardship.
everything. It's all part of the learning process.
Yeah.
If I can just say that advisors today tell me that they want to work with high net worth and ultra high net worth clients because they see my numbers and they want to do it right now. And my response to them is I only knew that I didn't want to work with a certain type of audience. We only identified our right fit clients because we dealt with so many other different people that we learned who we liked and who we didn't like. It's the analogy of eggs, right? About what's your favorite type of eggs? Is it scrambled? Is it poached? Is it over
Boiled.
easy? Is it
Yep.
how do you know until you've tried them all? For you to stand up and say today, my client is the ultra high net worth individual. Why?
Mm,
Because I want to earn a lot of money. Well, have you considered the possibility that you could earn a lot of money in seminar selling to high school teachers as well?
mm,
Oh, no. So I think it's important to expose yourself to as many experiences as possible. So, yes, even through the hardships with the family, because it made me realize It's part of growing up, I guess. It made me realize that what I said was right, how I said it was completely wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And one last question that I always ask all guests is, what is your alpha dad song? So if your business is requiring a lot from you, your family needs you as well, and you don't feel well, what one song do you play on the back of your mental mind to make it through the week?
Journey, don't stop believing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, Rickson D'Souza, thank you so much for your time and imparting a lot of your wisdom and knowledge. For someone who has gone through a misguided ambition and gone through your personal, physical, as well as mental evolution, thank you for sharing us your legacy.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.